So, what I wanted out of life is to work as a gas station attendant at essential service like I'm doing. Go to the doctors and get treated for my physical illnesses when they happen. Like if I get a broken leg, I go to the emergency room and or the regular primary care, and I get the broken leg looked at. Or if I bleed into my testicles, I get that looked at. Or if I'm pissing black, I go get that looked at. Or if my mother at age 7 gave me an overdose and I'm seizing and I need an ambulance, I get an ambulance at age 7. I got none of that. I never get any of that. So all I've ever wanted to do is work, pay my rent, pay my taxes, and get medical care. That's it. And I've needed medical care since age 7 when the state let me get crippled. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention this. I was awarded the state of Massachusetts at the time in which I was made disabled. I was also made disabled several times after that. Full bottles of Epicac destroying my stomach, traveling me all over the country, just all different types of things going on. I just want to be treated like a human being. Just want my human rights. I just want my civil rights. But I don't get those like everybody else. I don't. People can kick me on camera, burn me, take away my canes, refuse wheelchairs. They even can force me to work while getting hurt. Now, I like working. Don't get me wrong. This is what throws people up. I love working. I was never allowed to really learn or go to school, and I was always told I was some gimp. That's the word that they used to call me, gimpy, gimp. I went along with it as well because, I didn't know. I was so messed up in the head, so brainwashed from my mother. She was twisting my mind into thinking I should lie to the doctors about being schizophrenic. Luckily, I fought that one and got slapped around for saying, no, I'm not going to lie for you, Mom. I'm not going to lie for you, Mom. But now, I'm 31. I don't get any rights. I don't. I don't get to see a doctor. I don't get any of these things. So, if for just one time I was able to be treated like a human being and I got my civil rights, maybe an attorney or maybe some of my disabilities recognized and treated, or maybe if I didn't have to wander in the woods and live in a cave, or maybe if I wasn't thrown out of a shelter for being disabled and being on the ground hurt, or maybe if I wasn't being thrown out of a shelter because I went to the emergency room in an ambulance while unconscious. Maybe if I'm not having to walk the streets in a gurney because the hospital just cut all my clothing out and I have nowhere to go. Maybe if people aren't pushing me to the ground and trying to rape me. Maybe if people aren't sticking their fingers in my bum in hospitals from 8 rooms down, I'm reporting it to staff and staff are laughing about it and letting it continue for weeks. Maybe if I'm not being held down and given double medications in the same hour that have deadly, deadly side effects that I'm already reporting is causing damage to me. Maybe if I'm not being held down and giving the same medication at age 7 because some other kid, played with my orange juice. Maybe if people weren't throwing me to the ground, kicking me in the ribs because I'm giving a notarized paper on the behalf of an 84-year-old what was recorded on camera, a ring camera, and brought to the police department. Maybe if people weren't allowed to poison me with mold, pills, medications, Epicac. Maybe if people weren't able to hold me down and force these things into me. Maybe if the landlord told me that I was going to get sick beforehand, I wouldn't have rented this place. But nobody told me. Instead, they let me continue to get sick. I brought it forward. They disappeared the reports. I didn't know the city of Rochester all my reports would fall on deaf ears. I had no idea. I had no idea this town was corrupt, and they had no problem with water coming in for before we moved in. So many, many, many years. We've been here for like 7 more years, probably 8, and yet water was coming in gallons before we moved in. So that tells me that there's been water coming in this building for years, and I'm guessing Rochester already knew about it because this isn't the only hole. There's a hole above us too. The apartment above us has a big gaping hole. It's half the size of ours, and there's water coming in there too. So the city must have known that this place was a health hazard and getting people sick before they allowed it to be rented to me. I am so tired of these things getting me sick and hurt. I did not know that this was allowed, that there was just apartments out there with gallons of water coming in, and that they would rent that to an 84-year-old. They were already renting this place out to an 84-year-old with health conditions before I came up here. How is that legal? After he reported it, they still rented it out. After I reported it, they still rented it out. After the tenants before us told them about it, they still rented it out. This isn't even the first failure I've seen. There are so many that got me hurt that now I'm going to have to die. I'm physically going to have to die. And what's even worse is that they're just going to find a dead body. The doctors aren't even going to help me. They might try to keep me alive at the end and torture me and laugh at me. I'm not even kidding. This is the help. First, they refuse help your whole life. Then, when you're dying, they try to bill your family by keeping you alive. It's a way to just clean you out a little more at the end. Now, I'm asking for help now so we don't have to get to that point. But once when they find my dead body on the side of the road unconscious, watch, they're going to put me on breathing machines and all that to keep me alive. Meanwhile, I need help right now that could prevent that. I need preventative care. I need documentation of my injuries. I need my civil rights. I need an attorney. I need these doctors and the landlord to stop beating me up and malpracticing me. I need the towns and cities to do their jobs. I need all these. I've been needing Social Security since age 19, but yet I've been just working, falling down, getting hurt, working, living in the woods, falling down, getting hurt, then work. That's all I've done since getting up here. Work, and go to the doctors and the Department of Health and Human Services. That's it. Work, Department of Health and Human Services, doctor. Work. Rest, Jesus, religious day. Work, doctor. Work, doctor. Work, Department of Health and Human Services, work. That's how my weeks go. There's always one day a week for Jesus and God, though. And I pray that he will wake people up to their sins one of these days. I mean, like poisoning a child is very wrong, but allowing it to continue to 15 years, like the Department of Health and Human Services did with me as a child, is even worse. Letting the child be trafficked around the country is even worse after there's reports of something wrong with him all of a sudden. I mean, I was really good, my health. I was just a hyper child, super hyper, all the way to age 5 until the overdose. But after the overdose, something was seriously wrong. I couldn't walk right. I couldn't move right. And don't forget, I was learning how to walk. All of a sudden, a big change overnight in my body. And still today, I still having problems with it. Now, I have lots of documentation and things that I can help. But I'm losing the ability to speak now. The only reason I can speak this well right now is because I am not moving my body. I am not using my nervous system. I am not standing up. But the minute I stand up, the minute I open my eyes and start moving my body, my speech will be affected. My body will shake. My arms and fingers will shake. My legs won't work proper. This has been going on for 25 years in different severity levels. Now I got landlords kicking me on the ground and letting me just get poisoned by mold. None of this is legal. My whole life has been one fucked up illegal fuck. I've had my civil rights taken away at a young age, and they continued and continue. Nobody has the right to spread hate and then kick you and throw you to the ground for giving a notarized letter on the behalf of an 84-year-old. And we have every legal right to handle a legalized notarized letter for repair of a waterfall for 6 years coming in to the landlord. I'm tired of these games, and I'm not going to put up for them. We either get our civil rights, we get the help we need, or I go in the woods, start planning my death. How do I want to be buried? How do I want to, go about this? Where do I want to walk for my last mission? Because wherever I walk to, after living in the woods, I'm not going to make it. My heart and body can't make it. They're going to find me on the ground. I'm going to freeze to death several times. I know this for sure. It's already happened before. Anybody who doesn't believe me can go to the Low General Records. They were scraping me off the cement every week for something. every week, every week, every week. And because I was treating myself with alcohol at the time, I doubt that any of the reports say anything other than we found him on the ground frozen to death. We found him on the ground with alcohol. We found him on the ground with no alcohol, smelling like alcohol. We found him on the ground frozen, shaking. We found him on the ground with a seizure, no alcohol. We found him on the ground with a seizure, no alcohol. We found him on the ground with a seizure, but no medications. We found him with a bunch of medications. Doesn't matter. That's going to happen again, but my body can't take this, especially after the mold for years, especially after all my mother's pilling and hurting me. And by the way, that's what killed her too. My family hid it. My father hid it from the public. I mean, she came home and drank the one day she was let to be released. So it's very obvious that alcohol and medications played a big part in her death. But yet, I wasn't allowed to speak about it. I wasn't even allowed to see my mother as she passed away. Nope. I was locked up in the house. Not only that, after she passed away, I wasn't allowed to get my inheritance. Not one bit. My father played a game. The attorney called me to let me know my father was playing a game. My father lied through his teeth, and still to this day, he lies through his teeth and said, "Nope, nope, nope, I don't know what you're talking about. I already had a conversation with your attorney. You're lying through your teeth." My father's attorney called me and told me what he was doing. And he thinks I'm too stupid. No, I'm giving you a chance to be honest with me, but instead he doesn't. He took my inheritance and now he lies and says he didn't. Meanwhile, his own attorney called me and told me to have a conversation with him because he was doing this. And then when I try to have a conversation with my father about this, he lies through his teeth and says he never did it. Meanwhile, then he turns it around and tries to say, I'm some big liar. I'm some big thief. They've been doing that since I won the medal and I was age 5. I won a swimming medal in the orphanage and they stole it from me, told me I was a thief and a liar and it must be an African Americans and I must have attachment disorder. And then that's how they got the attachment disorder bull on my record as well. That's how that started, because I still to this day, they still have a medical record that says attachment disorder. They still have a mysterious allergy attack that's an overdose. They still have a bunch of crazy reports going on, but they just are mental health disorders. He's a liar and a thief. Meanwhile, if I was any more honest, I would have to walk up to officers and start taking responsibility for other people's crimes. I literally have been told many times that I need to learn how to shut up and not tell the truth because I'm always coming clean with stuff that either I've done or things at work or things like, oh, no, that's a mistake I made. You don't have to tell everybody about your mistakes, Zach, they tell me. Well, yes, I do, because if I don't, it's going to be twisted into something else like my mother and father do. So I have to own my mistakes as they happen, and that's just how I am. And my manager goes, well, if you want to own your mistakes right away, that's great, but we would prefer you don't. This has been my life. This is how I've lived my life. I don't manipulate, I don't deceive, and I'm honest 100% all the time. But I also have to be very careful. Like, for instance, if I'm honest with my brother and tell him I won't say anything about what you're doing, but then somebody else is drunk and screaming at me saying, we want you to tell you what your brother's doing, then you're caught between a rock and a hard place and you have to say nothing and take the beating. And that's usually what happens. I say nothing, and then somebody screams and punishes me for saying nothing because I don't want to be caught in the middle of that shit. But it happens all the time where people twist things up. They twist it up and go into fantasy land with it. They put it on paper. Then the doctors go, well, you can't be telling the truth because we have a piece of paper that says you have this condition. And when was that piece of paper established? This is the problem. I have actual severe disabilities, physical, and I have anxiety, PTSD that's severe, and ADHD or hyperactivity disorder, concentration issues. That's what I have. Now, my actual disabilities that are severe have to do with numbness, the nervous system, lack of ability to walk, lack of ability to talk, lack of speech, movement, things like that. And this goes into my hands, fingers, legs, and it has nothing to do with anxiety. This is every minute of every day. This is when I'm happy, sad, in between, when I'm anxious and not anxious. But when I do get anxious, when I do get anxiety attacks, it gets turned up to a 10. It's always at a 4, but when I have an anxiety attack, it gets turned up to a 10. But every time I try to get help with this, they just want to twist it up, call it something. Oh, it must be just as anxiety. Then why, when my anxiety is over, is it still there? It's been every day for 25 years. I do not think that that's anxiety. No. And how does pills cause a everlasting anxiety attack? How does an overdose cause that? Tell me that. How does certain stimulus that has nothing to do with anxiety make it worse? This has nothing to do with any mental illness. It doesn't cause numbness. How does playing tennis barefoot play into this? I mean, when I played barefoot, I couldn't feel it. How does anxiety cause numbness in the bottom of the feet? Tell me that one. How can I put pins and razor blades on less pain than the average person? It's very obvious that the feats I had as a child and that the things I was testing my body to do caused me very little pain. Yes, I had pain, but there's less sensitivity on my skin. Now I'm so fucked up, I can't do shit. After 25 years of nothing, no civil rights, no help, no doctors, no, I get nothing. I get treated like an animal, and now I get to be put down like an animal, and I'm tired of it. I am not going to be put down like an animal without a fight.